And we have a new argument, the argument from conscience. What is good for you isn't necessarily good for me. Did you hear that one before? I sure did. And it is called with a difficult word, moral subjectivism. Yeah. And it is a very popular idea in our Western society. But things seems to change if you start to talk about one's conscience. I have met many who do not or who refuse to believe in a universally binding idea of morals, the universally binding morals. They will absolutely rebel against the idea of someone or something that dictates an absolute moral standard. They quite often say that they only follow their own private conscience. So before we continue, we first should define and clarify the word conscience. The modern meaning tends to explain it as just a feeling that I didn't do something wrong or I'm going to do something wrong. It's a feeling. But the traditional biblical view is that conscience is the knowledge of right and wrong. So we just know what is right and wrong. It's not just a fuzzy feeling. Well, you know what? For this argument, we use the word conscience as given as a given knowledge, and not just a feeling. Let me quote Peter Kraft, who said that it is a intuitive knowledge rather than rational or analytical knowledge, and it is first of all the knowledge that I must always do right and never do wrong. The knowledge of my absolute obligation to goodness, all goodness, justice and charity and virtue and holiness. Only in the second place, it is the knowledge of which things are right and which things are wrong. The second place knowledge is a knowledge of moral facts, while the first place knowledge is a knowledge of my personal moral obligation. A knowledge of the moral law itself and its binding authority over my life. That knowledge forms the basis for the argument from conscience. And you see, it's striking that no one, not even the hardcore subjectivist, believes that it is right to, on purpose and deliberately, disobey one's own conscience. Even though people have different ideas about what is good and what is bad, there remains one moral absolute for everyone. Never disobey your own conscience. Almost everybody will admit this idea. Christians will argue that this is our God-given compass, while the atheist will insist it has nothing to do with God or a God whatsoever. So let's see what kind of explanations people use for this idea of conscience. Some people say it's given by nature, so it comes from something which is unguided and thus lesser than us. And then I say, but why should I absolutely obey something lesser than me? We all recognize that doing something purely out of instinct isn't always the best way to go, right? Then they come up with number 2. It comes from our own individual thinking. So, am I the absolute standard to all things? What if I just don't like the possible outcome? I just as easy shift my thinking and permit myself something I previously thought to be wrong. So then there is a number 3 as well. The conscience comes from other people within our society or from society as a whole. Really? Am I going to allow others to dictate what is right and wrong? Who is to say that others are the authority on morals? You see, if the whole society states that it is okay to experiment on twin babies, does that make it right? What if society think people should have only one child, and if that child is a girl, that same society thinks it's okay to dispatch of the baby? Do 1,000 humans make a relative into an absolute? I don't think so. And then we come to the fourth one. Our conscience comes from something higher than us, and that's what we call God. Actually, this is, in my opinion, the only option left. All the other options fail, and this one is the only one most will feel as being absolute. Conscience is thus explainable only as the voice of God in the soul. But we live in a time when many think it is okay to disobey the church, disobey the government, or any other figures of authority, right? However, the big no-go is still do not disobey your own conscience. This means that people usually believe in the absolute moral authority and binding duty of conscience. Of course, not many will say it in these words, but their actions reveal it nonetheless. But now we have to deal with the idea, which I just said, the voice of God in the soul. As discussed, there seems to be no other option for the origin of our conscience. Some would say that this can be a variety of deities. Atheists like to point out that we could be talking about Zeus or Allah or any other god we worshipped throughout the ages. And it sounds very smart, but no, the God option can't be right in their opinion, right? They go like, no, this is not right. So many of them will refer back to society or their own ideals, with all the inconsistencies taken for granted. So why would this argument be best explained by the idea that it is the biblical God, Yahweh, who gave us our conscience? Well, you see, among all the ancient gods, the God of the Jews was the first who got identified as the source of moral obligation. The gods of other people were maybe thought of in similar ways. Yes, they too required ritual worship, they inspired fear, they created the universe or ruled over the events in human life, but none of them ever gave the 10 Commandments. No, it is only the God of the Bible who said, "Be ye holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy." Now some would say that the Muslims worship the same God as we Christians do. And sure enough, there are rules to be found in Islam that look very similar to the commandments in the Bible. However, it was Jesus, the Son of God, Jesus Christ, who explained the commands in a way we all understand as being superb. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your enemies. Do to others what you want them to do to you, etc. Golden rules, which we mostly can find in our own conscience as well. Yes, Islam does teach similar rules, but, there is a big but, they only apply those to those who think the same as they do. Quite different than what Jesus taught us. So, let me conclude this argument with another citation from Peter Kraft. Here we go. To sum up the argument, most simply and essentially, conscience has absolute, exceptionless, binding moral authority over us, demanding unqualified obedience. But only a perfectly good, righteous, divine will has this authority and a right to absolute, exceptionless obedience. Therefore, conscience is the voice of the will of God. Of course, we do not always hear that voice aright. Our consciousness can err. That's why the first obligation we have in conscience is to form our conscience by seeking the truth. Especially the truth about whether this God has revealed to us clear moral maps, which can be found in Scripture and Church. If so, Whenever our conscience seems to tell us to disobey those maps, it is not working properly. And we can know that by conscience itself, if only we remember that conscience is more than just immediate feeling. If our immediate feelings were the voice of God, we would have to be polytheists, or else God would have to be schizophrenic. So this is the whole argument. Again, I would very much see what your ideas about this argument are. You can comment in the section below this video. Do take a look in the description of this video. You'll find ways to support me, or you could visit my website and read the transcript of this video. Sometimes that's nice to do because you can read it again, and I always try to make the transcript available in the Dutch and English language, and you can take your time and think through the argument. I would also like to invite you to my Odyssey channel. Odyssey is a platform which is based on a new protocol called Library, and videos that are uploaded through the Library protocol are censorship free, unlike others. It would be great if you start following me there. I'm mostly active, not almost, but I'm mostly active on that channel. So you can also comment on my videos on BitChute or YouTube, but because I'm not quite often on those channels, you might not receive a reply over there. If you want to start your own channel on Odyssey, you can use my invitation in the description, and if you do, we will both receive some free LBC. Anyway, as always, thank you for watching, God bless you, and we see each other in the next video. Thank you for watching this video. You can give me a thumbs up if you liked it. You can also subscribe to my channel, or even better, follow me on Odyssey. That way you will never miss a new video. You will find all the links in the description below.